Welcome to the National Soccer Coaches Association of America Winter Webinar Series. My name is David Newberry and I'm the coordinator of the NSCAA's Club Standards Project, an initiative designed to raise the performance of coaches and players one club at a time. Since May 2012, we've had over 750 clubs join, representing approximately 540,000 players and 48,000 coaches. The NSCAA is delighted to have David Clarke present today's webinar, which is the 10 ways to play like Barcelona. David's background is in sports journalism, and he's worked on the sports desk of the Sunday People and the Sunday Mirror, analysing soccer games throughout the English leagues. Importantly, David has been coaching at grassroots level for over 15 years, and for the past 5 years has been the editor of Better Soccer Coaching. David is also the head coach of a youth coaching publication called Soccer Coach Weekly, which is a subscription service offered by Green Star Media featuring activities and articles by top coaches. Each month, David visits youth academies in the English Premier League to pick up the latest youth coaching ideas and to put them into a format to be used by even the most inexperienced grassroots coaches. Welcome, David, and not to put any added pressure on you today, but today does represent the highest attended webinar we've had with over 250 participants on. So welcome, David, to the presentation.
Hi there, and thanks very much. It's really good to be back with you, Dave, and to be working with the NSCAA. I'd like to thank you for inviting me to take part in another webinar, and thanks to everyone who's tuned in. Hopefully you'll have something to take away with you today. These are the two main things that I work on in youth coaching. You know, obviously I'm a coach as well, but these are where I get my main ideas through out to coaches out there. Soccer Coach Weekly on the left, that has just had a revamp. It's now 12 pages of sessions and advice and tips, and it's for coaches, you know, from grassroots throughout, you know, through to academy level. It's got some very good sessions in. We try and get influential players in world game and explain what they do and then create sessions and drills around them that help you coach your teams and your players to develop in that manner. I'd just like to start first of all with a little tale from, I was at Christmas during the period I wasn't doing any coaching. It was snow outside, and I was sort of playing Connect 4 with my wife, which is a game of, you know, like noughts and crosses, but it's quite you know, with counters and things. Anyway, after a close contest over a number of games, we were drawing, so the result rested on our final game. As the game was coming to an end, however, I realised that I was going to lose. I could see all the play in front of me, and I counted the number of counters and where they would all go, and I realised I was going to lose. So I stood up and I just walked off and said, "You win." Just a minute, my wife called me back and said, "What do you think you're doing?" She said to me, "You've taken away the glory of winning. You'd have something to say if we were on a soccer pitch." So we should all recognise the glory of winning. You know, when we lose, we should allow the victor the spoils, because we can find our own glories we can take from defeat. There's always something to take away, even if it's just a topic to work on in training. The glory of winning, I thought, was an apt phrase when discussing Barcelona, because Barcelona, even though they revel in winning and their glory is that, they have nothing to do with the win-at-all-costs attitude. Their glory comes from the attitude that they have towards their players. You know, I look at it as the better an individual plays, the more they enjoy it, the more the individual enjoys it. And if they succeed in playing well or scoring a great goal, or they make a great save, they'll achieve happiness, and they'll achieve that glory. And basically that's the main aim of my talk today. Because Barcelona have such a high percentage of possession in games, I won't actually be covering their pressing defending style when they win the ball back. I mean, that's really for another session. This is basically their attacking, you know, where they have the ball for 70% or 80% of the time. Although I will mention that when Barcelona lost to Celtic in the Champions League, that was despite having 85% possession of the ball. So, even Barcelona lose when they should have won. I mean, that's the random factor in our sport that makes soccer so much fun. If you have any questions, like Dave said, you can tap them in as we go along, and then Dave will have hold of them, and at the end we can go through a few of them. Right. Okay. Play what you see. That's what I'm going to start here with. It's a phrase I often use when talking about passages of play, and one I use to talk to my players. I like them to play what they see in front of them. So although I'm coaching them how to beat a player, one-on-ones, how to do ever, they are the ones that see the game. They are the ones that my eyes see through them. I'm standing on the touchline. They see what they have to do. Also important because I'm going to talk about playing out from the back through the thirds and finishing in the final third. And this creates a lot of decisions for them, so they play what they see. However, this season, I've just come through a period where that picture in front of you, I mean, that's what the pitches are like. So, I came away from a talk, and one of the guys stood up and said, just like all the dads out there who are coaches, one thing, please, play out from the back. Well, we'd love to, but I turned up the very next day on a pitch that was practically waterlogged, and the referee said, no, the game will go ahead. And if we'd played out from the back, the ball would just got stuck continually in the water, and that we wouldn't have had a game. So we had to bypass parts of the pitch that were so play what you see is applicable to the players and also applicable to what you're playing on. And play what you see. It's something that I was invited to coach another team earlier this year, and they asked me along to come and watch a friendly match that they were playing in. They were playing against the local rivals, and every time one of the players had the ball, the coaches were just screaming, "Pass here, pass there! What are you doing?" And then, no doubt about it, they went 3-0 down. And one of the coaches turned to me and shouted to me, "Why don't you give them some advice? You're supposed to be this great coach. Why don't you give them some advice?" And I said to them, "Well, I want to watch what decisions do they make. I'm here watching your team. It's no good me telling them what to do. I want them to do it. Telling them what to do is for the training ground." Anyway, at half time, the manager was telling them to do this, that, and the other, and they went out, and all they needed was someone just to say, "Well, use the space at the back," or try and pass the ball better. They don't need it during a game for that sort of thing. So play what you see is play what the players see. Any form of attacking soccer, however you play it, works on the attacking principles of play. Barcelona are no different. I mean, these are the attacking principles of play, and you should really know them because you should cover them really. Any coaching syllabus should work on these attacking principles. So with the idea that these are the attacking principles of play, and this is how we get through the game and how we create an attack, let's look at Barcelona. Well, two huge personalities stand out for me with Barcelona, and the first one is Pep Guardiola, who's had a huge influence on the way Barcelona play. I know he's no longer their manager. I know Tito Villanova and his deputy are in charge, but Pep has left this legacy with Barcelona, and I can put it like this: it's basically, he says, cherish the ball as if you were a jealous lover. If you lose it, the team fights to get it back like a pack of dogs. By monopolizing the ball, you will minimize the random factor that we were talking about with Celtic beating his team. And also, most importantly, you enjoy yourself. This is one of his ideas, just like when you're in the school playground, all the fun is having the ball. I'm sure someone like Jose Mourinho would say different because he can play without the ball and still win games. But the misery to Pep lies in not having the ball. He wants the other team to feel that misery. And the second personality, of course, Lionel Messi. Messi, well, he's just an extraordinary player. He seems to, have the ability to do whatever he wants, whenever he wants. But what I'm going to say now is that I think we can teach our young players, if we teach them all the things that Messi does, then they're going to develop massively. So between the ages of 7 and 15, the best time for them to learn the Lionel Messi skills. Of course, he does it naturally, but then he has been practicing every day. He talks about going out and he does it, and he learns how to do feints, how to do all these different skills. And his genius is knowing not only how to do it, but when and where. And that is the experience that our young players have to get. We can teach them the skills, but then they have to learn the when and where. And that comes from, allowing them to make mistakes. His genius comes from experience, gamecraft within sessions that we create, and also when they're encouraged not to fear failure. Gamecraft replicates the demands of the game in a coaching session, and that's what I'm going to try and bring out today. It encourages problem solving and decision making, and it creates challenges for the players. Repetition is key to this. Repetition, an atmosphere where failure and mistakes are not punished, that's what we want. I'll quickly just go through what I think Lionel Messi does, basically, and that is he's been spending time with the ball on a daily basis, just weaving in and out of cones or imaginary defenders, which is basically homework for your players. He touches the ball with every step when he dribbles. We can coach that, even if we do it really slowly at first. He runs slowly at a defender, then he'll draw them in, burst past them with speed. We can coach that. Play 1- and 2-touch soccer when it's on. Shield the ball. Don't give up. He never gives up. Lose the ball, he wins it back. He must be a nightmare to play against. So he sets players up and he sets the play up. He can play 1 touch, he can dribble, but he's learned all this. So I'm going to take you now onto some gamecraft ways to coach these skills. If you have any questions about the bits that we've just gone through, if you don't think that we can create young Lionel Messis, which could well be a good point, anything you'd want to questions on, please just send them in now. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit here about El Rondo warm-ups that you always see Barcelona do whenever they start a training session. I saw them for the first time in England at one of the Premier League academies I visit. I really like going to work with academy players because it's so different from grassroots coaching. They all turned up, all on time. They came up and shook hands with the coach. They came up and shook my hand. And then, without even asking, they split themselves into groups, got some cones out of the bag and a ball, and set up these simple Rondo warm-ups. What I like about that is that those academy players, it gives them an ownership of the session. They already feel part of the session because they're setting themselves up. So I've tried to do this with my teams. When they get to training or when they get to matches, get out just 4 cones. El Rondo, it's about 10 yard by 10 yard. Set it up, 3v1, 5v2s, and they're not doing it at full match pace. They're just doing it. They're trying to block. They're trying to win the ball, and they're having fun. They turn up. The player in the middle has the job of getting the ball off the others, and when he intercepts it, they switch. What's great is that I use it. It's a great social time for the players to get rid of that bit where they all want to talk to each other. They turn up. They want to talk about what they've done at school or what they've done at the last match or what they've seen on telly. And so it's a social event that gets them moving, passing, pressing, and they're communicating. So it's simple stuff, and they go out on the pitch and they've been doing all this stuff, and they're all ready. They're talking. They're ready, and you can make it whatever you want. You can make it fast-paced. You can get them to do 1 touches, 2 touches. It's such a simple game, but it is the start of the hours of repetition that Messi talks about, that he puts in, that he put in during his younger playing days. There's lots of little exercises that you can pick up. Some are unopposed, some are opposed, but I think El Rondo is really, really good and simple, and you know, we can all set that up and get our players to give them a bit of ownership of the session before they even start. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the main, my main themes of possession, patience, and penetration. This will start with playing out from the back is quite a funny phrase, because I turned up at a session at a match, and the coach came up to me from the opposition team and said, you know, "Oh, hi Dave, you know, I know you're always going on about playing out from the back," and he said, "Oh, you'll be very impressed with my team. He said, we always play out from the back." So I said, "Great, you know." Anyway, as the game went on, they did play out from the back, but the goalie basically played it to the wing backs, either of the wing backs, who immediately thumped the ball up the pitch. So immediately they were giving the ball back to us. Not only that, but they did it the same way every time. So my players just basically didn't bother about the middle of the pitch. As soon as they saw a goal kick, they went and pressed and won the ball. He wasn't very happy about this. He said to me, "Well, you know, you tell everyone to play out from the back, but you know, your players aren't allowing that to happen." And I said to him, "Well, you know, play out from the back isn't just playing it, throwing it to your wing backs. There's a whole central area just in front of the penalty area where I haven't got any players in there, and neither had you. You know, you've got to use the areas and not just boot the ball away. Use the areas, and players have to fill in. As soon as they see space, you know, they fill in, and that's what the possession, I think, is all about. So this little game, 6v6, which has goal minders as part of that. You have 3 defenders and 2 attackers in each half. So you've got your three defenders and 2 attackers. So your goal minders playing into your 3 defenders. This is part of playing out from the back. The 3 defenders at the back have to make 3 passes. So they need to make 3 passes, and when they have achieved those 3 passes, then they are released. So that team are released, giving them 3 players to move into the opposition half to make a 5v3. The team without the ball, they're not allowed, they have to stay in their 2 areas. Now I'm sure you can see how that little movement in there, keeping the ball and then the race through, giving a 5x3, and there's loads of attacking options here. You know, the overload in attack, there's 3 goals, there's a goal minder, and then you're getting the play out from the back and straight away onto the attack. I wasn't going to include this, but 2 or 3 people said to me, "Oh, well, I put this session on the other day," and 2 or 3 people said to me they really, really liked it, and they found it was a good session to get the players passing and then moving quickly. Right. Okay, so this I'm also going to show this. This is playing out from the back, but this is continually playing through the thirds. So this is all about support play and movement to create overloads everywhere on the pitch. Each player, well, I'll start by, you've got the defending team has a goalie and 4 players, and the others have 5 players, which gives me the chance to bring one player each time into an overlap situations. So you can see the 2v1s and the 2v2s in front of you. As the overloads take over, you've got defense winning the ball, playing it through with a 2v1, and then we've got a 3v2 in midfield. This creates some great situations to play through, and then you're moving into take that overload into the final phase. That's a really nice little setup game that helps players understand playing through the thirds, because it's got the 3 parts of that. You know, you can say this is defense, this is midfield, and this is attack. And when you've done it a couple of times, I quite like to then put a goal at the other end and play the game as a small-sided game. So you know you're playing through the thirds, but you're keeping players more or less like in a game situation. These are your thirds that you're playing through. So if you've got any questions on any of those, or if you want more information about those sessions, just tell Dave on the question part of the webinar control panel. Okay, so this takes us into patience. Patience is quite tricky, but you know, the patience thing is where Barcelona are playing the ball and playing the ball, recycling it, and you think nothing's happening, and all of a sudden, Iniesta, bang, 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 Messi, and within seconds, and you've hardly noticed, they've gone, you know, and they've spotted, they spotted the space, they've spotted the chance, they've taken it, and they've moved through those thirds, and hit, like, you know, just it's so quick, isn't it, that sometimes it's difficult to see it. I've got a very simple game. I haven't actually got it on thing because you don't really need it, but I use it as a scene-setting game for my possession-based work, for my patience-based work. I just simply pick two teams, 3v3 or 8v8, whatever number of players you have, and then play normal rules, but the number of passes in the build-up to any goal is the number of goals they get. So if they make 5 passes and score, they've got 6 goals. You count the goal as well. But if, say, they make 10 passes and they shoot and miss, then it's no goals. That's such an easy one to set up, and I set this game up, and I get the parents to help me. I do this little exercise. I get a dad to look at each team, one for each team, and just to count. If we play, say we play the game for 10 minutes, we just count the number of passes each team makes to the whole thing. So you've got the goals and how many passes they score, but you've also got the number of passes the whole team actually makes. And then I get helpers, as many as you can, and get them to concentrate on one player each, and write down how many times that player had the ball and how many times he successfully passed it. Now, I know it's a bit, you know, it's a bit of a thing to set up with parents and everything, but it's only 10 minutes and you don't have to do it all the time. But if you make a note of it and try and cover all your players over, say, a period of 3 weeks, and over the period, playing these games and playing these little things, you'll notice how more often the players actually want the ball to pass it and how much more often they do. One other thing, while I'm talking about this, I might as well just add that I also get a parent to add up the amount of time I spend with players not doing anything. So the amount of time I call them in and talk to them. If it's an hour-long session and I'm talking for 15 minutes in an hour-long session, I'm probably giving them too much information and not enough playing. So that's another way to look at what you're doing, because you want, in a training session, you want to get as much time playing as possible. I certainly know a lot of academy coaches do this. You know, they don't like to see coaches stopping the game continually and talking. I watched a coach. It was unfortunate for him, really. I was there, but he had an interview, and he had to coach a session in his interview. So it was a really good session. You know, I spoke to him about it, and it was good, and he had some great ideas, but he spent a lot of time talking, and after the session, the academy director spoke to took the kids to one side. I think they were under 9s or under 10s. Said, "What did you think about the session?" And they all said, "Boring, spoke too much, we wanted to play, he kept stopping us." So that's just a little aside on what you can do to help. This is a possession game which helps with the patience thing, the idea. It's just a simple 2v1 overloads. One of the grey players, you can't actually see, but one of the grey players is a neutral, so he plays for whoever has the ball. So if the whites win it, then they have the 3. But you try and keep 2v1s overload, so you're continually just passing and moving and passing and moving. And it's just a really simple game that you can set up, have 2 or 3 going at once depending on your number of players, and it really helps them to get the idea of passing around and using space. Right, so that's that. Oh yeah, once I just on this, obviously the size of the playing area is really important. I mean, it's obviously important in most sessions, but in this one, if you make it a really tight area then, and the space is really hard to find, then you're giving them a really, fast workout. But if they're not as confident and they're not getting any success, well, just make the area big enough for them to get that success. And so if you say 20 by 20 yards to start with, and then drop it down to 10 by 10, or well, maybe a bit bigger, then you're basically you're moving them on and making them think quicker and use their skills quicker. If you've got any questions about that session or any of the other sessions, once again, you can just send them in. So let me get on to our final bit, which is penetration. 1v1s in the final third. This is when you've got the ball, the build-up play, and suddenly you're going to burst through and score. This is where 1v1s are really important. Lionel Messi, like I've said, just outstanding at these sort of things. But if you actually look at what he does, he uses the feint quite a lot, where he goes slowly towards them, looks one way, and then he'll just ghost past and go the other. So that's just one skill, and children love learning skills. I have mine quite often at the start of a session. I'll say to them, right, let's go, between two of you. Let's, see how many different skills you can do, or let's see if you can actually do one or do two, depending on how developed they are. This game, I quite like this game. It's great for, the kids love this because you've got 4 1v1s and a game going on in the center. So it's 3v3, but to score in the goal, you've got to run with the ball into the box and beat a player in a 1v1. So you're either running at a distance, which obvious is two different things. If you're tight on the player, like you are in this instance, you're going to probably use a feint and get past him. In this instance, you're going to have to teach something, maybe a step over, maybe something else, because there's a lot of time between the player getting the ball and reaching the 1v1 situation. He may well be very, very fast and be able to just burst past the player. But that's the decision making that I'm talking about earlier, that we want our players to be able to do. So actually, just before, so what I've come through in those 3-4 sessions is the fact that this bit here is ticking the creativity box from the 5 principles of attack. And I think if you think back, we've gone through them all now. We've done space, creating space, support play, movement, penetration, and finally this little bit here, which is the creativity bit. So that takes me on to challenges. This little boy, how do we help him achieve his dream of playing like Messi? In the detail of your coaching, one thing you must think about is the quality of the questions and challenges you set your players, when you ask them and how you ask them. I like to set challenges individually. So a lot of the grassroots, you have players on so many different levels, and if I was to set him a challenge, I could just set him something very simple like, can I play forward when the ball's passed to me? That's a great challenge. He's got the ball. Can he turn with it or can he move with it? But just can he play it forward? And that's all I'm thinking about in his 10-minute session. That's all he's thinking in his head. Can he play it forward? And then the next time it might be something different. Can he beat a player in a 1v1? Can he try and run with the ball? Or can he lend it to someone else and get it back? A 1-2. Try and give challenges that affect the individual. And also in a team challenge, it would be something like, can the players leave the ball playable for the next player? So can we not only pass it, but leave it in a situation where the player can run onto it, or the player can run into space with it? So challenges are very important part of building your session plans and building the session and working through the session. As the challenges get harder, the player's developing. And so's the team. And also, going back to creating an atmosphere at your club where you allow players to try skills and make decisions. You need a way of managing mistakes. You can't, have this idea that we want them to pass the ball and give them challenges, because often they will make mistakes. You need to use things. I quite like self-correction, because if the challenge is right and the learning outcome is clear, over the course of 2 or 3 weeks, the players may well put the mistake right themselves. They may well look at a friend or look at another player and realize that what they're doing is wrong, because they're losing the ball every time. So obviously sometimes that wouldn't work, and with certain players it won't. But sometimes there'll be activities where it's quite a frantic activity, and there's opportunities for me to take players to one side and talk to them individually, which I like to do. But then players do talk, and they will say to them, "Oh, what was Dave talking to you about there?" And so I need to mix it up, make sure that I'm not doing the same thing with the same players, because they soon spot what you're doing. Another way is to ask them questions like, what were you thinking when you tried that? Give them a chance to explain what they saw and why they did it. And then you can give them clues after that to help them out, and when you do, you just putting in their mind at ease so that what they did wasn't wrong, and also putting in their mind what was right or how they could make it right. You also need to manage your own mistakes as well and not feel bad when a session goes wrong. I ran a session the other night, and it just, I came home and I thought, oh, it just didn't work. I couldn't like the players. I don't think the players enjoyed it, and even though I changed it and tried to make it happen, it just wasn't happening. I remember I watched a defending session put on by I won't say who it was, but he was an international coach and a Premier League coach, a fabulous coach, and we were working with some under-14 players, and he was showing how you defend against an attacking 3 players. He kept getting the defenders to move, but there was one young player, and every time the defenders moved, he got past them and scored. And this went on for about 4 or 5 goes, and you could see the coach, top class coach, just getting totally exasperated because he couldn't make the session work. And afterwards he explained how difficult it was to coach coaches as well as run sessions. But he knew, well, we all knew, that the session just hadn't worked, and it happens to everyone, and it happens to the best coaches. So you mustn't be hard on yourself, and you must manage your own mistakes and try and correct those. Okay, so finally, I just want to talk about the key elements of how Barcelona would play tactically, and how you could do it with the youth team. I think we could probably say, make any statement, say 4-1-2-3-1 or whatever with Barcelona, and you couldn't quite see whether they were actually playing that or not, because they don't really need someone to say, well, here's how you set up. They just fill in gaps and spaces, and they're continually moving. But I do think as a youth team, to try and play 4-3-3 is an excellent way of playing out the back, playing through the thirds, and creating penetrative chances for you to get your player through. It's a system that's based on the players on the wings, the fullbacks and the wingers, the passing, the triangle in the centre of a pitch, which could be either attacking or defensive. This is it's a good tactical system to look into, and to try and work your players around. So if we go back to the 3 main points, I've worked on this sort of session planning for a while now, and I have one team who last season we played in our final game of the season, and the 2 teams, the opposition and us, both could finish second, and finishing second in that league meant you got a trophy. If you finished third, you didn't. So first and second got trophies, but we couldn't quite catch the team at the top. The team we were playing on, you needed a draw, and we played a lot. It was a very, very tight, tough game. But with 10 minutes to go, we actually scored a goal that won it, and that goal came, the goalkeeper played it out, it went into midfield, and three players backheeled the ball into space. Backheeled it, it was great. That, I mean, the pressure was really on them, and then they moved forward. The winger cut inside, slipped the ball through, and we scored a goal. And the whole season that we've been working on all these kind of sessions and ideas and challenges had, in that one instance, had basically come up trumps of them, and the glory of winning was there for all to see. So I'd have to say I didn't jump up and down on the touchline. I was quite reserved, as you can imagine. But that was a fabulous goal.